Well. The beautiful weather's here. Clarkey's posted up outside. I wish I could be. And
Why can't you?
You know what? The nice weather. Well, I don't want to. You got a small rig there. I got a whole setup here. I don't want to drag it outside. All right. The nice weather's here, and maybe it will bring nice tides and winds of change to the Maple Leafs organization because the search is still ongoing.
We're not going to talk about the playoffs.
We're going to talk about the playoffs too,
okay,
but
good.
We've got to.
I've realized, Drury, that I actually enjoy watching the playoffs and cheering against teams. It's fun.
Oh, okay. You're a hate watcher. I like that.
I am.
Okay. Well, we'll discuss that with our next
guest.
I'll tell
you who later.
We'll discuss that with our next guest, who has a lot of experience on all the topics we just brought up: the Toronto Maple Leafs, the NHL playoffs. You know this guy. You hear him on NHL Network Radio, one-time general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs, author, Stellick. Hello, our friend returning to the show, our good buddy, Gord Stellick. Gord, how are you, man?
Well, I'm good. I'm concerned that you said Clarkey has a small rig. I hope everything is okay, and whatever. There's a lot of things they can do for that now. So anyway, we're with you, Chris. We're with you,
buddy. Thanks,
man. Okay, man.
God bless you, Clarkey. We're pulling for you.
Thanks.
All right. Well, hold on just a sec now. It's a family show. Mr. Stellick, I need to ask you this right off the hop. What do you make of where the Maple Leafs are at right now in terms of this ongoing search for potentially a president of hockey operations, certainly a new general manager, a lot of names getting tossed out there. You've got experience in that big chair. What do you make of this whole scenario right now?
So the team is one thing. I'll be real quick about that in the sense that I view it as it's like a car crash scene. And the police are taking reports down, right? Because it's been that kind of way. It's been a disaster. Now, does whatever the general manager is it the kind of thing you go to the body shop and you come out and everything's good and you're back in the playoff hunt next year? Or is it one that the cars are totaled, it's a disaster, you're starting from scratch? So, of course, there's a lot of questions there. The hunt for whatever, and again, I'll wait and see what Keith Pelley does. It was a little, like I said, confusing, that press conference, about a lot of things about the organization and how it was vertically and horizontally and not aligned and all these kinds of deals. So he seems to be doing it the way Richard Petty did when he hired John Ferguson Jr., or the way Ken Dryden did when he hired Mike Smith. And that doesn't get people excited in either case. That doesn't mean it seems like whoever it's going to be would be a respected assistant general manager, kind of unknown as a GM. Does that mean you can get back quickly, or does that mean a rebuild? I guess we wait to be seen. So this is Keith Pelley's biggest hire. This is his most important hire. It was unexpected up till a few months ago that he'd have to do it.
You talked about John Ferguson Jr. and Richard Petty there. Richard said after, and maybe even wrote it in his book, that he made a mistake hiring a rookie general manager for the Toronto market. Do you think they can go down this road again with a rookie general manager?
So it's not just a rookie. I'd rather than have some of the, established general managers, people are quickly to say they're recycled and that. And in some cases, that's a very valid criticism. Okay. So some of the names I've been hearing don't really excite me. Now, I don't know if Mike Gellis is still in the hunt or not. Again, no slight, but he hasn't been around for 13 years. I never understand what John Chayka did in Arizona that gets people excited. Whatever, so be it. I mean, they're just offering. So, I mean, those are two guys with some cachet. But, Clarkey, I agree in the sense that there's other times that you can do it, But I think in this case that you've got a lot of challenges, and there's no appetite, no mood to say, okay, bear with us. We're gonna do it all again. We did this. Toronto did. The Austin Matthews year, the year before, coming dead last because there are a lot of good young assets. Toronto fans aren't stupid, okay? They knew there were young assets there like Morgan Riley and William Nylander and Nazem Kadri and Mitch Marner already in the fold, and then they added Austin Matthews. They know that's not the case right now. So it's a different animal. So even though it's likely to be, or there's a good chance it'll be a rookie GM, I don't know if the time is right for that.
Yeah, I mean, John Chayka, who could be, a great guy. I don't know the guy personally or anything, but I mean, to my knowledge, the only significant thing he ever did was break a draft rule. So, I mean, other than that, I'm not sure what he's in the running for. Although Clarkey, he is analytically driven. We know that, right? He owns a company that crunches numbers for a number of different teams at many levels. Mike Gillis, I mean, and Gord, you're starting to see, like the puff pieces come out about this guy. I read a story today out of Vancouver about how he was trying to do the right thing back in 2013 and trade Ryan Kessler, and he had all these deals that would have been really good on the table, and the owners said no. I'm inclined to believe that. I mean, Francesco Aquilini has certainly earned a reputation as a bit of a problematic guy to work for at times, but yeah, I hear some of these names, and I gotta wonder, like, have they called you, Gord? I mean, you're just as qualified as all these guys.
Well, I have not yet. I appreciate that. And and also, like Elliot Friedman talks about, one thing about assistant GMs now is there's so many assistant GMs that, whether you like my run or whatever, in my day, man, you did a lot. You had you were involved in all tentacles of the organization, as an assistant GM. And I think, that's something you're finding, that it's like 4 or 5 assistant GMs that you're trying to depict, how they could be as a big time power broker and generalist. So, again, I've got nothing against those guys we just chatted about. I do know, if you look at Toronto history, and it seems like it's not going this way. It doesn't seem like Doug Armstrong, whether he would have been the right guy or not. But you think of Cliff Fletcher, you think of Pat Quinn, you think of Brian Burke, and you think of Lou Lamoriello. And in each instance, you had a giant in some other organization that wanted to come to Toronto. And in every instance, it really was a positive. I know some people may debate about Berkey, like he never got to quite where he wanted to and we expected. So this one's a different animal. And like I said, hey, these guys could work out. They could be great. I don't know if about it, but Drury, you're right in that it's always been that way. You get friends in the media, so all of a sudden you go, boom, let's go. Wait, what do you mean this guy's the greatest thing since sliced bread? Although sliced bread's no hell, it's been around a while. But anyway, so it's I gotta say, I know Elliot and others have reported they're down to like four to be interviewed in the next wave and the final 4. So we shall see.
Every time I think of Mike Gillis, correct me if I'm wrong, Gord, but wasn't he the same guy who had 2 really good goalies in Corey Schneider and Roberto Luongo and didn't really capitalize on either of those 2 guys? And the rumors were he was going to trade one of them for months and maybe even a year. For whatever reason, that's just sticking in my mind about this guy, and I don't want anything to do with him.
So the other part is, I'm trying to remember when the Roberto Luongo was candid, my contract sucks and couldn't be traded. It was the Mike Gillis era. I don't take anything away. There's been some positives that, Mike Gillis did in Vancouver. He was a player agent before, and, a lot of Jeff Jackson, Bill Zito, and a lot of, top guys, agents have a real good feel for how the game is going. That Vancouver team, you go back to, I'm biased because, Berkey, I think he's a friend to everybody, but I consider he's a great friend of mine. And what he did with the Sedins and that, really put a great team together, that core that, Mike Gillis and Dave Nonis kind of benefited from. So I think there was an element of that. And the other Clarkey, and I guess because we're in the media, I just would like some people like, I'll use Don Waddell. You don't have to be a wild and crazy guy, or Doug Armstrong, whatever. There's a lot of them. Just, like Jeff Gordon, like come out, talk to the fans sometime. Okay. It's not top secret business, whatever it be. I mean, I like that being a little bit more forthcoming. And it just seems it's quite the contrary now that, although, Donald Trump talks every day, but before that, you hardly heard Joe Biden. And with a lot of these GMs, it's like you hardly hear from them. So that's probably a little bit of an unfair bias from a guy who's now on the media side.
I guess I would hope that there'd be other guys available better than Mike Gillis. And you're taking all this time. You can't uncover somebody better or attract someone from another organization.
I was going to say, I think the one name that I heard earlier in the process, and Gord, I'd be interested on your take on this guy. And obviously now I'm coming from a bit of an area of bias, is the Washington assistant GM Ross Mahoney, who has quite frankly run one of the best, if not the best, scouting staff in terms of amateur scouting in the league over the last decade. And I'd be sad as a Capitals guy to see him go, but that's exactly the type of guy that the Maple Leafs need, in my opinion. Someone who values young assets, values building through the draft primarily. I'm not saying he can't go and get guys in free agency and make trades, but this guy knows how to identify good young players, draft them, and bring them through that great Hershey system all the way to Washington, and it's yielded a lot of really good young players that they've been able to benefit from. Is that the type of guy? I don't know how analytically driven Ross is, Gord, but I think that would be a perfect type of guy, a guy with a lot of experience to bring into a market like Toronto.
Well, Drury, the one thing we're talking, just like once he comes in, he won't be doing that so much anymore. So he's got to surround himself with people that do that. And obviously I agree about making it a priority. The reality is you don't have any draft picks the next 2 years. I mean, It's not like zero, but it's basically like the cupboard is bare. So you hope, maybe you get some diamonds in the rough. Look at Brandon Hagel. He was a 6th round pick. Look what Tampa Bay did with, guys that weren't picked in the 1st round. They got Stamkos and Hedman 1st and 2nd overall. But since then, they got so many guys later. And, you hope whether whoever that makeup is, the scouting staff, that you start to get a few hits on this. But yeah, I mean, in all fairness, I don't know firsthand the inner workings and how they are. And of course, it'll be how they interview and how it all plays out with Keith Pelly and whoever he decides will be the thing. But hey, whatever it is, let's get on to the next level and let's see what they can do. And the proof will be in the pudding. So I'm willing to give that individual chance. I also think, again, it's not the end of the world that you start with just, there's no way everything could go wrong like it did this past season. So that's a positive in itself. But I think the other thing that's hard to swallow is I really expected in the last 9 years a Stanley Cup, or certainly to be in the Final Four a few times. And we've kind of seen that go now. And as we watch the other teams in the playoffs, we think, man, we were Ottawa, we were Utah, we were Montreal. I mean, that was us 8 years ago. And we were Philadelphia. And now you're seeing them and you're thinking, man, I hope they have some of the playoff success that we never got in Toronto.
Gord, do you think a two-headed monster, president, GM, two different people is the way to go? Or would you rather see a one-person president and GM, I'm going to make all the decisions, Keith Pelly, I'll tell you about them after I make them?
So, and by the way, just the last one, you mentioned assistant GMs. I meant to say, Bill Guerin's an excellent example of a guy that was able to move from Pittsburgh to there, but Paul Fenton was a guy that didn't make the move from Nashville to Minnesota, whatever. Anyway, so, but Clarkey, to get back to your thing. So, okay, again, not like Jim Rutherford and Patrick Alvin, who I know did get fired in Vancouver, but that model, look in Montreal. I mean, you got a respected guy like Jeff Gordon, and he brought in Kent Hughes, and that's really worked. So whatever it is that will work, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. It seems, you don't just get a president just to say, oh, look at that, we spent money, we got more people, because quantity is not always quality. I know Matt Sundin's name's out there or something, Chris Pronger's name out, there's a lot of names out there. Luc Robitaille's been a great president in Los Angeles, for Rob Blake and now Ken Holland and that. So I'm cool with whatever works. There seems to be a move afoot that you should get a president who manages upwards, and then you get a general manager who can focus managing the team. So I'm cool, whatever. I mean, when Kyle Dubas left, he was kind of pissed about Brendan. He said Brendan Shanahan, or inferred, interference from Brendan Shanahan. So did that make them inefficient, ineffective? I don't know. But a lot of people, you look at Brendan Shanahan's record in 9 consecutive years in the playoffs when he's president, that's a pretty good one to sit on.
I guess, but you didn't win.
Well, you won the regular, you didn't win in the playoffs. You're right.
Yeah. I mean, I think Brendan's fallacy, if you will, is that he made, and Gord, you know this from sitting in that big chair, I think that his biggest failing was that he got a little too married to his own players and thought, if I move off of one of these guys, I'm going to pay dearly for it, even though they weren't having success and driving themselves toward that ultimate goal out of the second round, which they only achieved that one time with Brendan there. Twice. I struggle to understand what the direction is. You hinted at this earlier with Keith Pelly's press conference that's now much maligned. I'm curious your perspective because you've covered and looked at this team all year long. Assuming whoever comes in has a mandate from Keith and everybody upstairs, we're retooling. We want you to make aggressive moves. We're making the playoffs next year. Do you think that the Toronto Maple Leafs, as currently constructed, if everyone's healthy next year, no knee injuries or hip injuries for Anthony Stolarz, no Chris Tanev injury, can this team, as currently constructed, make the playoffs next year?
Yeah, they can. They can. I mean, you can say that. Like, who thought Pittsburgh would make the playoffs this year? So a lot of things go right. You start that, okay, you have Austin Matthews. I mean, that's a whole other topic, I know. But Austin Matthews, William Nylander are elite players, okay? 31 other teams do not have those two. Chris Tanev's not a Norris Trophy winner, but he certainly was missed. Oliver Ekman-Larsson had a hell of a season too. Brendan Carlo. He's fine. Morgan Riley, what a mystery. What a mystery. So if at least he can be the better side of Morgan Riley if he's here or not. So you go over there. The goaltending, what the hell with the goaltending? Like first of all, be available, be healthy, and be better more consistently, like they did the previous year. So it's not like they ever did it. So you look at almost those kinds of things, and that alone will make you a more respectable team vying for the playoffs for sure. Why they stopped playing Craig Berube's system that worked the year before, I don't know. Is he back as coach? I don't know. So I don't know if the other ones that just, guys playing better is really what it is. When you play better, you make any system work better. So I'm giving the glass half full. It's not going to be easy. It's not automatic, but I shouldn't say it's not going to be easy. They did it. They did it before. They played at a certain level. Can they do it? I don't know. The jury's out.
It certainly could be. Clarkey, you love hearing that, right? You got your Blue Jays hat on.
I told you the same thing.
Internal improvement.
2 weeks ago, I said the same
improvement.
Thing. Internal improvement.
Improvement.
Would you bring Craig Berube back? I know we don't know, but is his time passed by? Is this another case of the players have tuned him out? It's time to bring in a new voice. It scares the crap out of me to think there's going to be a rookie GM and a coach who's never coached in the league, to be quite honest with you, but other teams have success with it.
Yeah, I don't even know if Craig Berube's not a quitter, don't get me wrong.
No.
He's got 2 years left on his contract. I wonder if he actually it's got to be almost beyond him what happened this year. So, Clarkey, the dressing room is real, and we never know truly because we're not in that dressing room, but I got to think there's a disconnect there, whatever it may be. So I got to think the chances are no about that, given all that, unless there's things we don't know. I don't know. But I mean, generally it's the easiest casualty to have. And I think that could be very likely. And I got all the respect in the world for Craig Berube.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's the oldest adage in the book. It's easier to get rid of the one guy than 23, right? I mean, he was having his very well documented battles on the bench with William Nylander. William Nylander's got a no move clause. Craig Berube doesn't have a no move clause. So I'm really interested to see what happens there. You brought this guy up a little earlier, Gord, and I'm curious what you think he could potentially bring to the table here. And it's already been rumored that Matt Sundin isn't going to be interviewing for the GM or the president's role, but they're talking to him about potentially some sort of advisory role with the team. What do you think Matt Sundin could potentially bring to the organization, specifically the front office? And you know what? Maybe even the players, like maybe even having him around might, ease the pressure on Austin Matthews a little bit or something. Like, what do you think he can offer the organization top to bottom if he does kind of join back up with the Maple Leafs?
So don't know. It's a sexy name. Obviously, it's kind of a surprising name, people say. But then, he had all kinds of respect as the captain of the Maple Leafs, deserved respect, probably underrated what kind of leader he was. And I know people that know him better than I are saying, wow, he's really kept up on the game. He's really got strong opinions. He's really at a place now. So it's the kind of thing that, okay, I'll even look at, Ken Dryden had the keys to do whatever he wanted with the organization. I mentioned earlier, he brought Mike Smith in. He brought Anders Hedberg in, was kind of a sexy name. He brought Pat Quinn in. It didn't work. After 2 years, Mike Smith was gone. Quinn became GM. So you can't, force-feeding names that don't work in cohesion is a negative. So and Kyle Dubas kind of, alluded to that. And Mike Babcock alluded that he didn't work well with Kyle Dubas. And, you waste things off the ice about that. How do you think it impacts your team on the ice? So I'm big on, how can you not be big on Matt Sundin? I love the name. I just want something in place. And I use that Montreal model, Jeff Gorton, Kent Hughes, and Marty St. Louis, which was you talk about a hire from left field when they did it, and just the organization as a whole that seems to have their bleep together. And whatever it may be in Toronto, I'm all for it. If Matt Sundin is part of it, I got all the respect in the world for him, and that would be great. But just because you automatically throw names in there, if there's not that cohesiveness, if there's not that strategy, if there's not that if it's done kind of ad hoc, it doesn't always work.
Do you think the way they're going about this search, taking their sweet ass time, hiring a search firm, I don't know. To me, just find the right guy and hire them. I don't like the waiting because I think people will disappear as you wait longer. They'll get jobs elsewhere. Well,
we had Sonny Mehta on our show this morning. Really interesting. I'm not saying he's the right guy, but what an interesting guy he is. And so it's kind of like the Islanders jumped in early on Peter DeBoer as the top coaching candidate, which he probably was. And I don't know if Sonny Mehta was the top GM candidate. But anyway, so first of all, the search firm, Clarkey, and, it is 2026, but we're allowed to be older guys when it comes to that. Not old guys, older guys that, okay, I get it. I get it. Corporations do it. Rogers is the big owner. That's the way it's done nowadays. I don't get it, though, about how can you not know who is out there? Whether, Drury mentioned Ross Mahoney or whatever, you're aware. I mean, like who is the secret mystery candidate? Does he work at the variety store around the corner and you never considered him? I don't get it. And then you got the guy, Neil Glassberg, about just the fact that he represents a lot of candidates out there. And, and actually, I bet the guy a few times. Seems to be a solid guy. He's done a solid job. But anyway, so no, we're not going to change the world that way nowadays, Clarkey, I guess. But yeah, I don't get it. I mean, you kind of, if I'm sitting in Keith Pelly's chair, just like if you are, you got a handle on certain people. Like I don't want a wide net. You're right, Chris. You got a person or two people in mind. Like Don Waddell woke up and said, I got Rick Bowness. He's the one guy I have in mind to come into the Columbus Blue Jackets as coach in the middle of the season. Okay. He's the right kind of guy. Even with Doug Armstrong, when Jim Montgomery got available, Drew Bannister may have stayed, but no, I got, so I like those kind of picks that you take advantage of, whether you want to call it inside knowledge or experience, whatever, that's why you're president, whatever it may be. You got your CEO, make these kind of decisions, go with your heart, go with your gut, go with what you know.
Yeah. And not to diss our good buddy, Gord Kirk. Everyone thought that Brian Burke, all the fans, everyone was saying Brian Burke's the guy. Well, let's hire Gord Kirk and find out what his opinion is. Guess what his opinion was? Brian Burke. And they hired him. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
I was only with CBC a brief time. And then, so they did that thing about, I forget the guy who was in charge then, but it didn't matter. But then Rogers ended up getting the rights. So they stopped the search. But I remember, so they did a search committee. And the three candidates would all be people we all know. Whatever, just kind of think, oh, no bleep, Shiloh, exactly. Yeah. So anyway,
sometimes the fans do know stuff.
The only thing here is we love Gord Kirk. So if he made a few bucks, I'm happy for that. Be part of the search firm.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Exactly. Well, I want to shift gears here, Gord, because the NHL playoffs are ongoing and it's been very exciting in round one so far, as always. You brought up a name there. You mentioned Kyle Dubas. I wonder how itchy his feet are getting right now after putting out that little video where he had all those clips of the media dunking on the Penguins and they're not going to make the playoffs. And they put that little video out to kind of go, and now they're down 3-0 to their state rival Philadelphia Flyers. The Flyers, they just look incredible. I'm curious your opinion on this. Of the teams that are trailing their series right now in the first round, who do you believe has the best chance to come back and win the series that they're trailing in, Gord?
So, okay, just to do a recheck here. So you got Ottawa, you've got Los Angeles, and we've got Pittsburgh, right? Everything else is 1-1 or someone has is that basically it? So, okay, those are the three.
Dallas is up.
Dallas
2, right?
is up
yeah,
2-1.
Yeah, Dallas up.
Okay, 2-1. Okay. So they're up 2. Oh, well, that one's going to go 7. Everyone says it's going to go 7, and that one's easy. It's going to go 7. And if power plays matter, Dallas wins. If it doesn't, Minnesota wins. So on the other side, the guys that are in more of a hole, which is Los Angeles, Ottawa, and Pittsburgh, I will say Ottawa going home, has the best chance. And I think man, oh man, just game number 2, they played really well. And Tim Stützle in particular, but also Brady Tkachuk. I mean, if they play that well, it's going to come for them. So, you're in a bit of a hole. But hey, who was down? Who was up 2-0 and up in game 3 by whatever it was against the Florida Panthers in round 2 last year, but the Toronto Maple Leafs. So we know it is not something that's insurmountable. It's a challenge. But I would, since you asked me that question, it's funny. I consider Minnesota a bit different because it's 2-1. But I'll just say Ottawa. I'm not saying they'll do it, but has the best chance.
The one we forgot about, and probably because we forgot about it, because I think it's probably going to be a sweep, is the Colorado LA Kings series. I don't.
Yeah, no, he mentioned
did you? Sorry.
Yeah, in my
that's
defense,
what I do when I start Googling. I don't listen to you.
So that's okay. Whatever your name is, we're chatting Dennis Bernstein down there. It's kind of like Game 7 there for them tonight, right? They gotta win that to make it a series. Like if you're the LA Kings, you're not going to get call 2 games like that in Colorado, like particularly game 1, get the Avalanche not playing great, and game 2 even then. But again, the Avalanche showed when you need the critical goal, they get the critical goal. So
what is it? What is it with the Boston Bruins? Just continue to go, and I think Buffalo's going to look back here and think if we didn't start Vesatoskala in game 2, we would have won.
Anyway. Well, I'm just glad there's only 2 games that I really cared. Well, there's more I do. I can't give away my bias on NHL Network Radio. You got to be all 32 teams. But I really wanted Buffalo to win game 1 at home, which they won. Like I want Utah to win game 3 at home, those, first home game there ever. So I'm not trying to piss off Boston fans and Vegas fans. Clarkey, it's still 1-1, and maybe a growth kind of thing. The fact they came back in game 1 from the deficit and won is huge. And then you park, he actually played well early in the game, game 2, but then that goal. And then after the wall fell in. So we'll see. Like the great thing is real good playoff teams, they're not us, and they park it. And tomorrow's a new day, and they look at a brand new whiteboard and they get at it. And those are the teams that end up winning.
100%. Yeah. I like Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. I've liked him since watching him in the OHL. And I think he's going to be great tonight. We're recording this Thursday, April 23rd, game 3, Buffalo and Boston. That series has been unbelievable. Before we let you go, Gord, I want to ask you about that specifically. Like I was really pulling for Buffalo to win that first game too, because it's just such a diehard fan base that's suffered a lot down there. Their first playoff victory in 14, 15 years. That building, I hope they had somebody holding the roof down, because it sounded like KeyBank was going to implode. It was so cool to see that the watch party by Canal Side. I mean, they had the barriers falling over. Like people were just going nuts. It's nice to see a market like that back in the dance with some passionate fans being rewarded for all that heartache.
Yeah, and they even politely lifted the barrier back. It's not like they stormed, It was kind of polite folks from the Maritimes or something. But I think when we talked earlier, and Clarkey, you were talking about Philadelphia a bit, is that hey, it's the best time of year. It's a whole different level. It's a whole different style of hockey. The intensity is phenomenal. And, Toronto, when Toronto got in the first of the 9 years and and Washington beat them in 6, and 3 games went to overtime, and they got a standing O, right? The only time you get a standing O when you lose. Then after that, there's expectations. So I like seeing the fun of a disproportionate number of teams like Utah, Anaheim, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Buffalo, and that all getting in this year. Ottawa, Montreal, it's the second year, but there's still an element of the kind of newness to it. So I love seeing the fans go crazy, and it's and you know what? Scotiabank Arena, which was Air Canada Center, it does lack. Okay, but it could get pretty electric sometimes. There was some buzz and some neat playoff games, along the way. Unfortunately, that's not there anymore. And the last couple of years, it would have picked up, like when the Raptors went to the semifinal and final. That was a whole new animal, right, for the fans, the basketball fans. And we never got to see that here in Toronto on the hockey side.
Yeah. It's too bad. Clarkey,
Gord, before you go,
thoughts?
I just want to say one thing, and this is just a personal PSA. A buddy at work, he always asks me who I have on the show this week, and I say to him, Dr. G, Gord Stellick. What? Dr. G, Gord Stellick's on the show. I listen to him every morning on NHL radio. His name is Max Carter. He lives in Ilderton, Ontario. He's listening to you every morning from 8:30 to 9 o'clock, and he's super pumped that you're going to be on the show this week. So there you go.
I got to give Max a shout out tomorrow. Then, we appreciate the diehard fans like you do, right? That's the fun part. Get to chat. So appreciate that, Clarkey. I'll try to give a shout out to Max tomorrow, and make sure you get some sunscreen on. At some point, okay, to cover. I don't that fair skin you have. I'm a little worried about. And let's have some fun kick-ass playoff hockey tonight and the rest of the way in the first round.
Go Tampa.
Absolutely, Gord. Well said, my friend. Thanks so much for doing this, Gord.
Okay, gentlemen, take care.
There he is, ladies and gentlemen, Gord Stellick of NHL Network Radio. Like Clarkey mentioned, like our buddy Max does, you can catch him all over NHL Network Radio programming, of course. And if you haven't, you should check out his book, Stellictricity. A lot of great stories in there, of course, from his time as Leafs GM. And Gord's kind of seen it all. He knows what's going on in the league better than most. And some interesting thoughts there from him just on the front office process in Toronto that remains ongoing.
I am so
Sundin.
I'm so afraid of what's happening here.
What are you afraid for? Like, what are you?
Well, first of all, Mike Gillis is like, there's got to be better people than Mike Gillis. I'm sorry, but there has to be. Mike Gillis, I think I've talked about Mike Gillis on this show before and how much I think he was not a very good GM in Vancouver. And now he's been out of the game for so long, and now the Leafs think he's the best candidate available. Come on, man.
They think he's a candidate, and I'm not a search firm. I don't represent Mike Gillis. To be fair, he did guide that team, however much credit you want to give him for it, to a cup final. And they did come up short in game 7, of course, but and then I read that story about how he had all these deals on the table to try and get a bunch of draft picks and try and get that team going in the right direction. The owner said, no, you're not doing that. I'm not sure. Like, I will say I'm at least, I guess, willing to give him a little bit of benefit of the doubt for his ousting in Vancouver, simply because of the long history of reported issues that ownership there creates. Again, I'm not in the room. I don't know the Aquilinis. I do not know Francesco. I don't know what he's like. You hear a lot of not great stuff out of there, like that Vancouver. Or you're scared about the Leafs, Clarkey. Like, everything you hear on that West Coast is an absolute unmitigated disaster right now. Like Jimmy Rutherford, I don't know what that dude's up to out there, but like that organization is in a hell of a lot of trouble.
But Jimmy Rutherford is a well-respected hockey knowledge.
Yeah, well, sometimes you're a little past it, and it just doesn't work out. Look at Lou's time on the island. It wasn't exactly super fruitful. I know
no
people
doubt.
are going to say they went to conference finals. I don't know if that was necessarily because of Lou, and he made some puzzling. I mean, we are talking about a guy that gave Pierre Engvall a 7-year contract.
We
okay.
are. Yes. No, I get
now,
that.
And again, I'm not saying that for me tarnishes Lou's legacy as a hockey executive, and certainly not Jim Rutherford's either. Lots of success, cups. You can't take that stuff away. But we're talking about right now. It's not 2002, right? So I don't know. Mike Gillis, he could be a very look, he was an executive for a long time. My concern is just like, what's he been up to? Like, you would think that if he was that desperate to get back into the fold, that over the last 12 or 13 years, somebody would have, and maybe, we don't know, maybe he's done some outside consulting. I don't know. Like, it's zero dark 30 on this guy, what he's been up to for 13 years. I really don't know. Me personally, I would rather see them try and go after a guy like Ross Mahoney, who again, I have a very high opinion of. But Gord makes a good point, though. Like, I love Ross and everything he's done with the scouting department in Washington. Who's to say he'd be allowed to institute that same kind of practice in Toronto with everything that we heard from Keith Pelly? We love it. We want analytically driven people, and we want to compete right away. And we think that this can be a retool. Like, I disagree with them, and I kind of disagree with Gord too. Like, I don't think this team can make the playoffs next year the way they're constructed. And it's only because of what I see.
Yeah. And I think you're depreciating assets. You're obviously referring to the guys at the top of the team, the leadership team of the Leafs, because a lot of the guys who aren't those elite players can be replaced and will be replaced, and they'll have a different look to some of the third and fourth line guys. And as much as you may dismiss the third and fourth line guys, that's how teams win with that depth.
Clarkey, that's just it, though.
I know, but some guys do
that.
Right.
You're right.
They have to retool those. And like, that's one thing that Brad Treliving failed miserably at with the money he saved with Mitch Marner flying the coop.
It didn't work out.
It didn't work out. So whoever they bring in has to rebuild that bottom six for sure. And Gord said it. I thought Gord said something that I hadn't heard yet. Everything went wrong with this team this year. Everything. There was no positives. Goaltending, injuries, Sundin, Matthews getting hurt. Like nothing.
You're not wrong.
Worked. Nothing worked. Like, I know you hate for me to say this, but their best player, dollar for dollar, no doubt, was John Tavares. Like 30 goal scorer making that money.
I don't hate to hear you say that, because you're right. I'm inclined to agree with you. I do. Like, especially what's key of what you said there, Clarkey, is dollar for dollar. I mean, let's just be frank here again.
Yeah.
I will not refrain from my position on this, and it's not a personal vendetta against the guy. I wouldn't have signed him in the first place. I certainly wouldn't have re-signed him. That being said, you can't deny that what he did for $4.75 million is utterly incredible on a team that was just bereft of good stories. So you're absolutely right. I don't disagree with you on that whatsoever. That's my point, though. Like, they get this miraculous 30 goals. Calling it miraculous is a little disrespectful. Like, the guy's a really good player, but now so that's my thing with next year, though.
Yeah, I get it. He's getting a year older.
He's a year older. We've watched a 2 to 3 year decline of Morgan Riley's quality of play.
No doubt.
What's Chris Tanev going to be like with all the scary stuff?
Well, he'll be better than he was this year because he didn't play.
I would hope so, but now the fear is an aging body who's going to be 37 that's already blocked a lot of shots and taken abuse. How durable does he remain? I'm nervous every single time Anthony Stolarz or Joseph Wall stretch one of their pads out to make a save. I'm nervous every single time that, here comes a blown groin and they'll be out for 2 months. We won't know it's a blown groin because they won't tell us, but like, very talented goaltenders. I'm nervous every single time they stretch out to make a save because I'm like, here we go. IR stint.
Yeah, no,
it's scary stuff. And then you get to the top of the lineup where you're talking about dollar for dollar. I mean, William Nylander, speaking of dollar for dollar, boy, was he ever excited to hit his 30 goal bonus.
Well, he had 1 point less than Mitch Marner, so.
Yeah, I don't care about what Mitch Marner did in Vegas, though. He's playing playoff games right now.
Yeah.
Mitch Marner, like, William Nylander, like, I don't know what is, what I'm going to get from that guy shift to shift.
No, we know that. We know that for sure.
And Austin, little
it's just
non-committal.
Like, the whole captaincy thing, in my opinion, the team and not for the better. Did I just cut out there? Sorry.
You did. I know what you said. It affected the team.
Yeah.
I'm inclined to agree, though.
And at this point in the team's plight here, I guess, is Matthews is the wrong captain. John Tavares would have been way better to
so?
take them. Well, he would have. I just think John Tavares, being the veteran guy, would have been way better to take them through a rocky season, to be honest with you.
I mean, do you really think that if Tavares was still the captain, that this year would have gone any differently?
No, but when you hear things like Scott Lawton said on First Up about
the guy's not staying for lunch.
Yeah. Like maybe that didn't happen when John was captain either, but to me, that's got to be a role of the captain to keep the team camaraderie together and doing things on the road and having pregame meals together and all that kind of thing. Like to me, that's the role. That's the role.
And that's another thing, like camaraderie. We're talking about human beings here with human emotions.
Yeah.
Camaraderie is a huge thing. I don't know that AI can account for that.
Well, it better.
That's
the way it's going to be. I just think if everything is going the way we hear in the media that it's going, with these 4 guys I've never heard of being the final 4 candidates for GM, and maybe Mike Gillis as the president. Like what's next? Who was the coach that led them to the terrible record when they drafted Austin Matthews? Is he coming back as coach too? Like, what are we doing here? This is the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Mike Babcock?
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. It was the year before. Well,
yeah, Babcock was there. Babcock's first year was the dignified tank.
The guy
Peter Horacek.
Peter Horacek, that's the guy. We haven't heard from him in a while either. So Mike Gillis might be bringing him in as coach.
To be fair, Peter Horacek was an assistant coach with Ron Wilson and got thrown under the. He got thrown into the deep end with a lot of piranhas. Like
he did, but that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying here.
Well, look, like here's the thing: like bringing new blood in or guys that have never done something at the NHL level before, it's going to happen eventually. You can't keep hiring the same 32 guys for the next 40 years, right? Like there's credence to bringing new people in, right? I mean, we've seen that with a number of different teams that have had success where a new guy came in and was able to kind of get things going.
Sure.
It's just determining who that right person is and who that person is that fits into a consistent messaging and plan for the entire organization, top to bottom, from development, pro scouting, amateur scouting in particular, free agency, the way that you run trade deadlines, asset management. Yes. Analytics, of course.
Yep.
That's the challenge, right? This is pro sports. You're guaranteed nothing. You just got to go out, have a cohesive plan and put it in place. And maybe, on occasion, communicate it to the fans. Like, I don't know. Say what you will about Kyle Dubas and what you think about him as an executive or not. At least he had the balls to come out, and who knows if it came directly from Brendan? We don't know, but he came out and said, like that famous quote of his, maybe his most famous one, Clarkey, "We can and we will." When someone asked, I think it was Steve Simmons in that press conference back in 2019,
if you can keep all the guys,
can you keep all these players? And he said, "We can and we will." Like he came out and said, "We're doing this. These are our guys." Like it was a very straightforward message, and the fans went, okay, these are our guys. Right now, it's like everyone's going, is Austin Matthews gonna stay? What's William Nylander's problem? Like I genuinely don't know. It's so I guess I don't know why I asked you why you're scared. I understand why you're scared. It's a very iffy period of transition right now with no clear road forward, but maybe within the next couple of weeks here when they hire somebody, there will be a clear way forward. I don't know.
Yeah. And I keep hearing Brandon Pridham's name. I know Brandon. I don't know him
very
that well,
smart
but
guy.
I did speak to Brandon Pridham when he was with the NHL Central Scouting.
Right.
Come in and fix the computers for us. I don't know. Obviously, being around hockey, he's probably gained some knowledge of the inner workings and all that stuff. But to me, he was a capologist. Is that what you want, a capologist as your general manager?
helped construct it and construct the CBA and the salary cap. Like he was one of the guys that wrote the rules for that, right? Like,
yeah, but
handy guy to have around.
Sure, but I do not see him as your GM. That's all I'm saying.
Who knows? I don't know. Like, I sit here and kind of I'm on the fence of it because, like, you hear some of these names and Mike Gillis and that Chris Pronger, and you kind of sit there and go, like, oh, well, like, what could they possibly bring? But then on the other side of that fence, you kind of go, like, how could it be worse? Like,
I love the Chris Pronger idea. I really do. As president.
My only issue there, and it's not an issue for me, I think Chris Pronger is a very valuable voice in the game and a guy that knows what it takes to win and was an elite player and has a bit of a knowledge of both sides of the business of running the game, right? My concern for him would be that he's such a strong-willed and opinionated guy that would have a certain idea. We've heard him on record on Overdrive say his idea for the Leafs would be to tear it down to the studs. His words, not mine. And that included Austin Matthews. I don't know that Keith Pelly would be very receptive to that. So I don't know that if they hired Chris Pronger, not that they would, given what I just said, if that would turn into a tire fire of clashing personalities. And that's the scariest part to me, Clarkey, here is the business people that are in charge of printing money down there being in the way of the people that should be making the decisions for what's best on the ice. I know that it's a tough marriage to kind of marry the two, and there's a business here. We got to make money. This is the Toronto Maple Leafs we're talking about. They're not looking at budget sheets at the end of the year going, boy, are we in trouble. This isn't the Phoenix Coyotes bleeding red ink. Who cares? You're going to make plenty of money. You're the Toronto Bloody Maple Leafs. Get some people in here that can help you have some success on the ice. And then if you do, you'll make more money than you've ever dreamed of, Ed.
Exactly. I totally agree with that.
I don't know what the schism there is. Like,
whoever
GMs, they hire.
I want to ask you.
Go ahead, please.
What? Who's a general manager that's available who you would bring in? Like, would you go with a name with an experienced general manager, or would you go with one of these AGMs from somewhere else?
I don't know who's going to get let go as a general manager, that could potentially be available to them. I'll sound like a broken record. Like, it broke my heart to hear it. Like, I would let Ross Mahoney come in,
I feel that you're saying, and you're being very biased. Is he the best guy available? Like, seriously?
I think he's certainly one of, but I don't know that, to answer your question, Clarkey, I'll go back to what I just said about Chris Pronger. I don't know that he's the best guy for the Leafs because he would want to come in.
Yeah, I get that.
Based on how things run in that city, in DC, and what he's been in charge of, which is, for the most part, amateur scouting.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I've seen him in Guelph. Like, Ross was in Guelph a couple years ago when they drafted Cam Allen and Jake Carabella. Amazingly smart guy. The Leafs don't seem to value draft assets. They trade them all away. And Gord's point earlier is right. It's not like Ross would come in there and have a bunch of first-round picks to use. But if you want to actually run the organization properly in the modern day NHL, drafting and developing in a cap world is extremely important. And yes, I'm biased. I have great reason to be biased. Look at all the young guys. I hate doing this to you.
No, we're not doing it.
When the Caps won in 2018, they had 13 first-round picks on their roster that they drafted. Seems pretty good. Like, that seems like a good idea, right? So I don't know. I believe in that guy and his scouting ability. I don't know who else they can go and get. Because good organizations aren't letting people just walk away.
Well, but that's where I was going to go. This is the Toronto Maple Leafs. And despite what some people think, it's a very coveted job. And if
Of
you
course
tell
it
me
is.
Mike Gillis is the best candidate available, then I'm gonna, I think, puke in my mouth a little bit, because there's no way he is. Like, we haven't heard. Here's the name we haven't heard in a while. Now, maybe I've tuned out like I did with Gord Stellick for that 20 seconds. We haven't heard about Doug Armstrong for a while, have we? He hasn't said, I'm not available. The Blues haven't said, we're not giving you permission. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't believe I've heard staunchly that the Blues have denied them letting them talk to him. However, like, his name has simmered down in talks over the last couple of weeks. I mean, we've been hearing a lot more Mike Gillis.
I know.
So I don't know.
Sometimes I think that might be a smokescreen.
Again, though, what I was going to say earlier before you asked, like, who I think that would Doug Armstrong be an improvement? Well, of course he would. There's nobody there right now, and he clearly has a decent pulse on being able to run a team. And again, St. Louis, people would say, well, they didn't make the playoffs. They've been bad for a couple years, whatever. They've got lots of good young players there too. I'm optimistic about St. Louis's future. I like that Jimmy Snuggerud kid. Oh, holy cow. Like, what a player. I just, whoever they hire, you, me, I don't know. Whoever they hire, I just don't want to see Keith Pelly's face or hear his voice ever again for the duration of the time that this person runs the show, because they should run the show. I don't want to hear in the media from Frege and Drager and all these guys and Chris Johnston that, oh, well, you know, the rumor was the Leafs could have made this great trade that would have helped them, but Keith Pelly and ownership said no. I don't want to hear any of this stuff. I don't want to hear him at press conferences other than to hire this person. I don't want to hear his opinion on how the team is working. Hire someone and let them do the damn job. You print the money and sell jerseys and make kids pay $1,000 to wave a flag. Let Doug Armstrong or Mike Gillis or me or Chris Clark run the hockey team. Okay? That's all Leaf fans want. That's right. Am I right in saying that? Okay.
Of course you're right. And we learned very clearly, Drury, at the press conference that Keith Pelly had, this guy should not be involved with anything hockey related.
Michael Hagee, baby. Michael Hagee.
I'm going to throw
embarrassing stuff.
What do you think? The PR guy's like, yeah, great. That'll be great. No, it's not great, actually. Anyway.
It really, it's a small moment. And look, people have slip ups all the time. We do it. To have him go out there and say that, it really made him look so much worse. I don't know. Speaking of looking and feeling worse, I need to highlight something here. I promised my friend, my very good friend, I'd do this for him, okay? My very good buddy, Jeremy Eaton, who just turned 41 the other day. Last Friday, Jeremy turned 41. And for his birthday, his lovely wife, Liz, and some friends went down to Colorado. They went to Red Rocks, and they got to see Sublime play, so one of Jeremy's favorite bands. So they see Sublime. The next day, they decide, hey, we're in Colorado. Like, let's go see a cool event here. Let's go watch the Rockies take on Shohei Ohtani and the LA Dodgers and take in some baseball. And while they were in attendance there, Jeremy and his cousin's husband, David Morganroth, I want to get his name right here, take a look at what they dug into at the Rockies game. Now, there's the two of them. They decided to take on the now very famous 9-9-9 challenge. So 9 innings, 9 hot dogs, 9 beers. And I said, Jeremy, I'll tell you what, buddy, if you guys both pull it off, I'll feature you on the show. So here they are. There's a more close-up view of what we're looking at here.
Wouldn't they get cold?
Okay, so here's the thing. I want to ask you, and I want to ask our fans, like, do you think you could complete? I could do this.
I could.
I could do this, and I think I could.
I might be able to do the hot dogs, but I couldn't do the beers.
Right. So you're not a huge beer guy anyway, so that's understandable. Here's how I would do it. Right away, I'm chugging 3 of the beers, because here's the thing. The hot dogs, you can scissor away at those throughout the afternoon. because the hot dogs, it doesn't so much matter if they get a little cold. Warm beer, though, hard to stomach down by the 6th or 7th inning. Okay. So I would be assaulting some beers early. Here's a look at Jeremy. This is about he texted me and said by the 7th inning, I was on the hurt bus. So he's really struggling to get through this thing. But by God, here's the final dog. Is it just before it went down? These two beauties, they did it. They took down the 9-9-9 challenge at Coors Field. Well done to David and my buddy Jeremy.
There was a hot dog left there.
Yes. They sent me this just as the final dog went down. They said last dog. It was Jeremy's. Okay. David apparently was done by the 7th inning. And Jeremy texted me that picture of him struggling, was like, he's done. I'm in trouble. They did it. So amazing job. We talk a lot about athletes on this show. This is a sports show. What an athletic feat that is. How about that,
it
Clarkey?
is.
That's
No
a
doubt.
truly
Athletic
feat, brother. Okay, a couple of minutes left here. Anything else you want to touch on playoff-wise here? I'm loving Buffalo.
I told you at the beginning of the show, I've actually been enjoying watching because
you're hate watching.
I am. And there's 3 teams that I'm hating. Well, I know you can guess one of them.
Montreal
for sure.
Boston.
No, it's not Boston, to be
not
honest.
Boston.
No, it's not Boston. Because I don't really
Montreal,
like Buffalo either.
Vegas.
So I guess
Mitch
it's 4.
Marner.
Because yes, you're definitely right there.
Mitch
so
Marner.
There's 2 more though.
Wow. Okay. And one of them isn't Boston.
No.
Ottawa.
Correct.
Okay.
Sorry, Pooley. Sorry, our buddy Pooley, but sorry. But no.
Well, you're a Toronto fan.
And then
there's 3 of them.
And you're gonna think I'm anti-Canadian, but I want to see Edmonton lose again because Connor McDavid will be a Leaf in 2 years. After his next 2 years, he'll be here because they're going to keep failing, and he's never going to want to re-sign it. He shouldn't have signed the contract for the next 2 years. It was unbelievable. Here, let's take a team-friendly contract and trade for Tristan Jarry, and then not even have him play in the playoffs.
Yeah, bad stuff for sure, but like fail based on what, as opposed to the great bar the Leafs are setting?
No. But he'll come in here. If you think
this cat is going to walk in, but if they did that already with Tavares, how'd that work out? Tavares.
You can't compare those 2 guys.
I understand that, but if you think that you're just going to sign this one guy and this one guy's going to come in and fix it all, this isn't basketball, Clarkey. We're
just
not
let me dream. Would you, Drury? Quit raining on my parade.
Do it. No, do it. Dream. Great. But if you think in 2 years' time with the nothing that's coming through the draft for this team, that he's going to walk in and save it,
we have the moolah.
Okay,
we have the moolah. We have a lot of room this year.
You've always had the moolah. How's that worked out for you? I don't know,
Next
brother.
Question.
So you're hate watching the Oilers. You're hate watching the Senators. You're hate watching Vegas. And especially Montreal. How about that Slavkovsky kid? The game 1, that hat trick. Good grief! And that series is
correct me if I'm wrong, but he made a great pass in overtime the last game.
Well,
it was to the wrong team though.
Slav giveth and Slav taketh away. Okay, it's a long series, all right?
It's just all these Montreal fans coming out of the woodworks thinking that their team is a be-all.
They're not coming out of the woodwork.
They are right now. I'm getting more texts right now from all my Montreal fans than I ever have, and I'm ignoring them.
That's fine.
Tom Williscraft, you're on ignore.
They don't come out of the woodwork. They're there. Anyway. I will say this. I was so happy to see that comeback for the Sabres. I don't have a dog in the race here. I'm just enjoying the hockey. It's just so great to see Buffalo. And man, all I could think the other night when they made that comeback, all I could think was, geez, I just wish Rick Jenneret was here to see this. And I'm sure he's watching, but you know how I feel about RJ. It would have been just poetic to have RJ in the building.
One last thing before you go. We had Rob Longley on before the season. We picked a guy who was going to be the X factor this year. My guy was Louis Varland.
Did.
I did. I picked Louis Varland, and I'm telling you right now, there's been a changing of the guard. This guy's got to be the stopper. He's got to be the stopper, bud.
That way. Sure,
that's all I'll
looks
say
that
right
way,
now.
brother.
We'll talk baseball next week.
You're a smart fellow, let me tell you. All right, and you're smart for listening to and watching this show. We love it. On YouTube, all your favorite podcast apps. Follow us on social media at Instigating Pod. Catch us on Rogers TV. We'll be back next week. Thanks to our buddy Gord Stellick. We'll be back next week with more Instigating with Clarkey and Drury.